everybody, Miss La-di-da here, and welcome to my show. Today I am going to be talking about something that truly rocked my world when I heard about this. I I'm still in shock over this, and that is in the beauty industry. Cosmetics giant Revlon filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection. Yes, you heard me correctly. Revlon. Now, this is this is like a punch in the gut for me, kind of, because I guess you could say it's just really sad. I guess because okay, so when I was a teenager, we're talking like from probably the age of like 14, is when I became obsessed with makeup and fashion. And when I was 16, which was the age I was finally allowed to wear makeup, um, Revlon was the first makeup I ever bought because I always bought the fashion magazines in the grocery store. Like, and yeah, I was only 14, and I didn't understand half the articles, but I loved the fashion, like Cosmo, Allure, Glamour magazine. Glamour was like my favorite magazine. And then all of the teen fashion magazines. I spent a fortune in magazines when I was a teenager, seriously. And the Revlon ads were always the ads that grabbed me the most. And so, and the reason for that, I think, is because they were so sophisticated back then. They were la-di-da back then. And that's what I wanted to be. That's what I wanted to look like. And so their ads and their product, the colors, always just jumped out at me. So from being 16 years old, and finally able to get a job to pay for my own makeup and magazines and clothes, I did. And Revlon was the first cosmetics that I bought. The first foundation, lipstick, nail color, eyeshadow, you name it, the whole thing. I went straight to Revlon. Most girls were going to CoverGirl or Maybelline, even some with the Wet and Wild, but not me. I went for Revlon. And Revlon's always been a staple for me. Throughout my life, before I started buying high-end cosmetics, Revlon was always my grocery store makeup. It was always my go-to as I got older in life. So let me read to you about what's going on with Revlon. Okay. So, Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection means that a case filed under Chapter 11 of the United States Bankruptcy Code is frequently referred to as reorganization bankruptcy. Usually, the debtor remains in possession and has the powers and duties of a trustee. They may continue to operate its business and may, with court approval, borrow new money. The company said it expects to receive $575 million in debtor in possession financing from its existing lender base, which will help to support its day-to-day operations. $575 million just for day-to-day operations. Wow. Debtor in possession means a debtor in possession, or DIP, in United States bankruptcy law, is a person or corporation who has filed a bankruptcy petition but remains in possession of property upon which a creditor has a lien or similar security interest. A debtor becomes the debtor in possession after filing the bankruptcy petition. So Revlon's allowed to file Chapter 11 and still, maintain their business and own all of their rights and all of that as of right now. The filing will allow Revlon to offer consumers products we have delivered for decades while providing a clearer path for our future growth. Revlon President and Chief Executive Officer Deborah Perlman said in a press release issued Thursday morning. This was a while back. Quote, our challenging capital structure has limited our ability to navigate macroeconomic issues in order to meet this demand, Pearl added. Revlon's bankruptcy filing said the company is currently unable to timely fill almost 1/3 of customer demand for its products due to an inability to source a sufficient and regular supply of raw materials. Also, I would like to point out that that is what took out Makeup Geek as well. I love Makeup Geek, or I should say loved, and it broke my heart when Marlena Stell went to social media and said that she was going to have to close out Makeup Geek and that it will be no more. And it's exactly this same problem that Revlon has. But obviously, Makeup Geek was such a smaller company than Revlon. Shipping components from China to the United States takes Revlon 8 to 12 weeks and costs 4 times 2019 prices. Wow. Revlon is the first major consumer-facing business to file for bankruptcy protection in what has been a years-long pause of distress in the retail sector. More than 36 retailers filed for bankruptcy in 2020, marking an 11-year high, which experts say was an extensive and COVID pandemic-driven pull forward of restructuring activity. Through May 31st, S&P Global Market Intelligence tracked 143 bankruptcies across all industries so far this year. And this was this report that I just found, this was issued back in June. And as of July, I know for a fact that that has even gone up even higher. It's the lowest pace since 2010. S&P only tracked 3 retail bankruptcy filings over the same period, the lowest count in at least 12 years. Now, as inflation rages, interest rates rise, and consumers begin to pull back spending on items that are not necessary. Experts predict more retail companies will be pressured to restructure, particularly as many of these businesses grapple with ongoing supply chain challenges. Wow, that was a mouthful. That have left them with the wrong inventories. The nail polish and lipstick maker, which is controlled by billionaire Ron Perlman, and I hope I'm saying that correctly, but I'm not sure if I am or not. But no, it's not the same Ron Perlman as Sons of Anarchy Ron. No. Ron Perlman's McAndrews and Forbes listed assets and liabilities between $1 billion and $10 billion, according to a filing with the U.S. Bankruptcy Court for the Southern District of New York. Revlon had long-term debt of $3.31 billion as of March 31st. A securities filing shows this, that the securities filing showed that that's what it was in debt of, $3.31 billion. It was in debt. Holy cow. The company's market cap was nearly $123 million as of the close of trading Wednesday. Trading of Revlon shares was halted in Thursday's pre-market session. In late 2020, as stuck-at-home consumers dramatically curtailed their spending on beauty items, Revlon narrowly avoided bankruptcy when enough bondholders took part in its debt restructuring program. The company had warned in early November of that year that it may be forced to file for Chapter 11 protection. Its sales of about $1.9 billion in 2020 were down 21% from 2019 levels. Though the business rebounded in 2021, Revlon's revenue is still below pre-pandemic levels. Perlman's McAndrews and Forbes acquired Revlon in a hostile takeover for about $1.8 billion in 1985. It went public 11 years later. The business grew over the years through acquisitions, including of Cody's Qtex business and Elizabeth Arden, which shocked me about Elizabeth Arden. I had no idea. In addition to its namesake makeup banner, its portfolio also includes Almay, American Crew, and Britney Spears fragrances. Britney Spears fragrances. Not Britney Spears herself. Revlon could use its time in bankruptcy procedures to prune its portfolio, given it owns numerous brands, some of which are performing better than others, said David Silverman, a retail senior director at Fitch. If executed effectively, Revlon could emerge from bankruptcy with a cleaner balance sheet and a better operating profile, improving longer-term business prospects, Silverman said. PJT Partners is acting as financial advisor to Revlon, and Alvarez and Marcel is acting as restructuring advisors. Okay, let me get just a little drink here. You'll have to bear with me. I'm nursing an ear infection as well as a sinus infection, so bear with me here. Let's talk about the Revlon Timeline, because I found this to be very interesting, and I learned so much from this, and there are some things in this that just totally took me by surprise and shocked me. I couldn't believe some of this when I was reading it. Okay, so here's the Revlon Timeline. So, founding and Charles Revson control from 1932 to 1975. Revlon was founded in New York City on March 1st, 1932, in the midst of the Great Depression, by Jewish American brothers Charles Revson and Joseph Revson, along with a chemist, Charles Lockman, who contributed the L in the Revlon name. They started with a single product, a new type of nail enamel. The three founders pooled their resources and developed a unique manufacturing process, using pigments instead of dyes. Revlon developed a variety of new shades of nail enamel, and in 1937, Revlon started selling the polishes in department stores and pharmacies. In 6 years, the company became a multi-million-dollar organization. By 1940, Revlon offered an entire manicure line and added lipstick to the collection. During World War II, Revlon created makeup and related products for the United States Army, which was honored in 1944 with the Army-Navy E Award for Excellence. By the end of World War II, Revlon was the number 2 cosmetics producer in the United States. The company bought Graf & Schmidt, a cutlery manufacturer, seized by the government in 1943 because of German business ties. This acquisition made it possible for Revlon to produce its own manicure and pedicure instruments, instead of buying them from outside supply sources. Very smart. Stock market. On February 28, 1996, Revlon was listed on New York Stock Exchange as Public Limited Company. The IPO price was $24 per share. IPO means an initial public offering, or stock launch is a public offering in which shares of a company are sold to institutional investors and usually also available to retail investors. An IPO is typically underwritten by one or more investment banks, who also arrange for the shares to be listed on one or more stock exchanges, just so you know. In 1957, Revlon acquired Nomark, a shoe polish company, and sold its shoe polish line, Esquire Shoe Polish, in 1969. Other acquisitions, such as Tidy Bowl, the maker of toilet cleansers, and a 27% interest in the Chic Electric Shaver Company, were soon discarded. Evan Picone, a women's sportswear manufacturer with a price tag of $12 million in 1962, was sold back to one of the original partners 4 years later for $1 million. However, the 1967 acquisition of the U.S. Vitamin and Pharmaceutical Corporation made Revlon a leader in diabetes drugs. Holy cow! The company began to market its products overseas at the end of the 1950s. By 1962, when Revlon debuted in Japan, there were more subsidiaries in France, Italy, Argentina, Mexico, and Asia. In Japan, Revlon used its basic U.S. advertising and models instead of adapting its advertisements and using Japanese models. Sales for 1962 came to a whopping $164 million. In 1968, Revlon introduced Eterna 27, the first cosmetic cream with an estrogen precursor called progenitin, I think is how you pronounce that. It's spelled Progenitin, which is pregnenolone acetate, and fashion designer fragrance Norman Norell. Later, Revlon launched Bragi and Pub for men, and a line of wig maintenance products called Wig Wonder. In 1970, Revlon acquired the Mitchum line of deodorants. In 1971, Flex shampoo and conditioner were introduced. In 1973, Revlon introduced Charlie perfume aimed at people under 30, which I wore the heck out of in high school. I am not ashamed to admit that. Promoted by model Shelley Hack, wearing trousers. Ooh. After the introduction of Charlie, Revlon's net sales figures were $506 million in 1973 and $606 million the following year. Shelley Hack appeared on Oprah in 2007 to talk about the power of Charlie advertisements. Janter perfume was also sold well. Revlon also owns the perfume brand Jean Naté, which my mom loved that brand. The company bought Elizabeth Arden in an $870 million deal in 2016. I was blown away that they bought Elizabeth Arden. That just shocked me. All right, Michael Bergerac Control from 1975 to 1985. In 1975, Charles Revson died. Michael Bergerac, whom Revson had hired as president of the company, continued to expand the company holdings. Revlon acquired Coburn Optical Industries, an Oklahoma-based ophthalmic and optical processing equipment and supplies manufacturer. Barnes Hind, the largest U.S. marketer of hard contact lens solutions, was bought in 1976 and straightened Revlon's share of the eye care market. Revlon purchased Armour Pharmaceutical Company, a division of Armour & Company, from the Greyhound Corporation in 1977. Other acquisitions included the Lewis Howe Company, makers of Tums Antacid, in 1978. These healthcare operations helped sales figures surpass the $1 billion mark in 1977, bringing total sales to $1.7 billion in 1979. In the mid-1980s, Estee Lauder spent millions of dollars on numerous magazine ads featuring Czech supermodel Pauline Porizkova, shot by famed Chicago fashion photographer Viktor Skrebnetsky. Revlon's share dropped from 20% to 10% of department store cosmetic sales. Sales at the drugstore also declined as Revlon lost shares to Noxell's CoverGirl brand. Revlon compensated with more acquisitions: Max Factor, which I never knew, Ellen Beatrix, Charles of the Ritz, Germaine Montiel, Almay, Ferndale, Lancaster, Aziza, and Halston. The 1977 acquisition of Carlos Colomer, a Spanish professional beauty supplier distributor, brought Fermadal and Rock and helped introduce Revlon to the world of ethnic care. Cream of Nature, Realistic, Lovely Color, and Milk and Honey. In 1983, the company attempted an unsuccessful hostile takeover of Gillette. In 1989, Revlon became one of the first companies to replace animal tests with alternative safety testing methods. All right, I need to take a drink on that note. Wow. It was just, when I was reading through this, it was just blowing my mind at all these companies that Revlon just started buying up. They just wanted to take over the world, I guess. Ronald Perelman Control. On November 5th, 1985, at a price of $58 per share, totaling $2.7 billion, Revlon was sold to Pantry Pride, later renamed to Revlon Group Incorporated, a subsidiary of Ronald Perelman's Mac Andrews and Forbes. The buyout, engineered with the help of junk bond king Michael P. Milken, saddled. In 1970, Revlon became the first American cosmetics company to feature an African-American model, icon Naomi Sims, in their advertising. In the late 1970s, Revlon also made history when it created their line of cosmetics specifically for women of color called the Polished Ambers Collection, and selected fashion model icon Iman to be featured in the advertising campaigns. Revlon was also noted for featuring models of a wide range in the 1980s, including a 13-year-old Mila Jovovich and 60-year-old Audrey Hepburn. Despite the successful campaigns of the 1980s and 1990s featuring models, in particular Cindy Crawford, Revlon decided to drop fashion models and focus on movie stars. Among them, Kate Bosworth, Jamie King, Halle Berry, Susan Sarandon, Melanie Griffith, Julianne Moore, Eva Mendes, Jessica Alba, Jennifer Connelly, Beau Garrett, Jessica Biel, Oliver Wilde, Emma Stone, and Bond girls. In 2009, Australian supermodel Elle Macpherson became one of a long line of spokesmodels for the company. American actress Jessica Biel modeled for the brand, first shown in advertisements in January 2010. In 2008, celebrity makeup artist Gucci Westman was hired as Revlon's global artistic director, representing the company at runway shows and brand events and designing collections. In 2020, Korean-American singer, actress, and fashion designer Jessica Jung was announced as the new global ambassador for the company. Philanthropy. Revlon is a corporate sponsor of several charity projects. The largest of these is the Revlon Run Walk, founded in 1994 in partnership with the Entertainment Industry Foundation. It is a run and walk event held in New York and Los Angeles to raise money and awareness for breast and ovarian cancer, which has raised and distributed more than $70 million to women's cancer research and support programs since its inception. Revlon also supports other cancer charities such as Look Good, Feel Better and the National Breast Cancer Coalition, and operates a mobile mammography clinic in and around Oxford, North Carolina, where the company's primary manufacturing operations are located. In 1996, Revlon supported the development of a breast center at the University of California in Los Angeles. Renamed Revlon UCLA Breast Center, the center is a well-known institute for treatment and research of breast cancer and other breast diseases and disorders. Revlon lip gloss shade, whose proceeds support Revlon's cancer charities, was also created in 2009. In September, Revlon, with a huge $2.9 billion debt load, and this was back in 2009, which became an albatross around the company's neck for years to come. Pantry Pride Inc. offered to buy any or all of Revlon's 38.2 million outstanding shares for $47.50 a share, when its street price stood at $45 a share. Initially rejected, he repeatedly raised his offer until it reached $53 a share, while fighting Revlon's management every step of the way. Forstmann Little and Company swooped in at the $56 a share. A brief public bidding war ensued, and Perelman triumphed with an offer of $58 a share. Perelman said $1.8 billion to Revlon's shareholders. He paid $1.8 billion to Revlon's shareholders. but he also paid $900 million of other costs associated with the purchase. Perlman filed suit in the Delaware Court of Chancery to force Revlon to accept Pearl's offer. And the resulting appellate decision, Revlon versus Mac Andrews and Forbes Holdings, was a landmark case in determining the obligations of public company directors in hostile takeover situations under Delaware law. Perlman had Revlon sell 4 divisions, 2 for $1 billion, the Vision Care division for $574 million, and the National Health Laboratories division, which became a publicly owned corporation in 1988. Additional makeup lines were purchased for Revlon. Max Factor in 87 and Beatrix in 89, later sold to Procter & Gamble in 91. Also in 91, Revlon sold the Clean and Clear brand to Johnson & Johnson. So yeah, they did all this buying and then it bit them in the butt. In 2011, PETA removed Revlon and other high-profile cosmetic brands from its list of companies who do not test their products on animals after the organization learned they were paying Chinese laboratories to test cosmetics on rabbits and other animals. In August 2013, Revlon Consumer Products Corp. Bought the Colomer Group from CVC Capital Partners, a private equity firm, for $660 million. After suffering business loss in 2011 and 2012, at the end of 2013, Revlon announced that it will exit the Chinese market, which employs 1,100 people. The business in China accounted for just 2% portion of net sales of Revlon's international operations. On November 1st, 2013, Revlon named Lorenzo Del Pani as president and CEO. In March 2014, Revlon announced leaving Midtown and relocate headquarters to the top 2 floors of One New York Plaza. On September 22nd, 2014, Revlon's board of directors elected Roberto Simon as executive vice president and chief financial officer, effective as of September 30th. On April 30th, 2015, Revlon completed the acquisition of UK-based fragrance management company CB Beauty, including its UK distributor SAS & Company. On June 16th, 2016, Revlon announced to purchase its competitor Elizabeth Arden Inc. for $870 million. I still can't believe that. The acquisition was completed on September 7th, 2016. Revlon also acquired Qtex from Coty Incorporated in 2016. The company announced on January 29, 2017 that CEO Fabian Garcia would leave the company at the end of February. Board member Paul Meister would become executive vice chairman of the board and run day-to-day operations. A quarterly report from the end of 2017 estimated its quarterly loss failing approximately between $60 million and $80 million. In May 2018, the company announced the appointment of Deborah Perlman, the daughter of Ronald Perlman, to the position of Chief Executive Officer. She will be the first ever female CEO of the company after serving as COO starting in January 2018 and serving on the board since 2015. In January 2019, Seeking Alpha published an article regarding trading anomalies on the Revlon stock. It is under investigation. In August 2020, American Bank Citi wrongly wired $900 million to creditors of Revlon. The wire sparked a protracted legal fight in October the same year. The bank was fined $400 million by the U.S. bank regulators as a result of their risk and control systems and was ordered to update their technology. Wow. That's scary. Bankruptcy protection. On June 16, 2022, Revlon filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection after struggling with debt, rising competition, supply chain challenges, and falling behind evolving beauty standards. A few hours after the bankruptcy announcement, Revlon shares lost more than 13% of their value. According to a filing with the U.S. Bankruptcy Court for the Southern District of New York, Revlon listed assets and liabilities between $1 billion and $10 billion. Revlon, which had been managed by Perlman's daughter, Deborah Perlman, since mid-2018, had long-term debt of $3.31 billion as of March 31st, 2022. This comes after avoiding bankruptcy in 2020. It was one of the last remaining holdings of Ronald Perlman. Bloomberg News reported that the company's bankruptcy process could be complicated by financial controversies. MarketWatch quoted industry analysts and commentators as saying that bankruptcy would allow the firm a chance to refresh and regroup as it attempts to compete with newer brands like Kylie Cosmetics or Fenty. CNBC reported that Revlon's bankruptcy might be the start of a broader bankruptcy problems for the retail sector. No joke. And it's only going to get worse. As inflation rises, more and more companies are just going to have to fall out. I mean, that's all there is to it, and it's sad, but that's the future right now. Advertising. Until the 1940s, Revlon's magazine ads were drawn by hand and mostly in black and white. In 1945, Revlon began launching full-color photographic advertisements in major magazines and stores across the country. Revlon introduced matching nail polish and lipsticks with exotic and unique names. These ads were taken by the top fashion photographers of the day, including Richard Avedon, Cecil Beaton, and John Rawlings. Some of these ads were for Paint the Town Pink and 1945's Fatal Apple. These ads, Fatal Apple, I lost my place, with Dorian Lee, In 1947, Revlon introduced Bachelor's Carnation, and in 1948, Sweet Talk. In 1950, Revlon introduced a red lipstick and nail enamel called Where's the Fire, and later used Fire and Ice ads. One of the world's first supermodels, Dorian Lee, starred in some of Revlon's most memorable advertisements of all time. In 1946, Dorian was covered in purple flowers and wrapped in a pale purple sheet for ultraviolet. In 1947, Dorian appeared in Fashion Plate. In 1953, at the age of 36, she appeared in Cherries in the Snow. Later that year, she appeared in the legendary Fire and Ice ad shot by Richard Avedon. Originally, Dorian appeared in a tight, silver-beaded dress with an enormous red wrap. Her black hair had a silver swirl in it, and she had her hands with long red nails positioned in front of her breasts. Charles Revson rejected Avedon's original ad as too sexual. They reshot the ad, this time with her open hand in front of one hip, and other in front of her cheek. The advertisement became Madison Avenue legend because of the full-page quiz next to the sensual ad. Almost 50 years later, in November 2010, Revlon recreated 1953's Fire and Ice magazine ad with actress Jessica Biel and announced that they were issuing a limited edition Fire and Ice lipstick and nail color, calling this campaign Lips and Tips. Dorian Lee's 15 years younger red-headed sister, Susie Parker, also shot numerous Revlon magazine ads in the 1950s. Susie and Charles Revson, who wanted to marry Dorian at some point, despised each other. At one point, he refused to hire Susie anymore because she complained about the peanut paycheck she received from Revlon. Richard Avedon, however, after photographing other models for a particular Revlon ad, would call in Susie at the last minute, sometimes late at night, to do retakes with him. This happened with Stormy Pink, an ad Susie shot very late at night with a wild white horse in the ocean. Avedon would then tell Revson that it was not Susie in the ad, but a model named Bubbles, or another made-up name. In 2010, Revlon, with global artistic director Gucci Westman and spokesmodel Holly Berry, hosted an event at Fashion's Night Out in New York City to raise funds for the Janice Center, a Los Angeles organization for domestic violence victims. Revlon also hosted luncheons and various other events to benefit the center and partnered with then-online retailer Drugstore.com to donate portions of lipstick sales to the organization. In 2018, the company launched an employee volunteer program which was created to provide each full-time U.S. employee with 8 hours of time to engage in community service. In September 2015, Revlon donated $1 million through its Love Is On $1 Million Challenge dedicated to women's cancer, heart disease, and diabetes. Now, what I'm about to tell you next, and this is after I read you this will be the end, I promise, of this podcast. I promise. But I just thought this was really interesting, and it's about the hostile takeover that Revlon tried to do with Gillette back in 1985. So this is from an article by Bart Ziegler. It came out in June 19th, 1987, and it was called Revlon Tries to Buy Gillette. Boston, June 18th. Gillette Company's directors today rejected an unsolicited $4.66 billion takeover offer from Revlon Group Incorporated, the second attempt Revlon has made to buy Gillette in the past 7 months. Revlon needs the consent of Gillette's board to proceed with its proposal under a standstill agreement. The companies reached at the end of the first takeover battle in late November. Before the board meeting, Gillette, a leading maker of razor blades and other personal care products, announced that Revlon late Wednesday proposed to pay at least $40.50 in cash for each of Gillette's 115 million common shares outstanding. The announcement triggered heavy trading in Gillette's common stock, which closed at $40.25 a share, up $3.25 in New York Stock Exchange composite trading. Nearly 9 million Gillette shares changed hands, making the stock on Big Board's most active issue. Revlon stock rose 25 cents a share to $20 on the NYSE. Gillette thwarted Revlon's initial $4.12 billion takeover effort by repurchasing Revlon's 14% stake in Gillette at an above-market price, providing Revlon with a profit of about $34 million. Gillette also bought back an additional 10% of its shares from other stockholders, and then launched a restructuring plan to help reduce the debt incurred to finance the share repurchases. Gillette and Revlon reached the standstill agreement under which Revlon is prohibited from again buying Gillette stock without Gillette's approval. But the agreement also might allow Revlon to reap an additional windfall from its previous stake if Gillette accepts a buyout from a third company before November 24th. The agreement states that if Gillette accepts a buyout before November 24th for more than $29.75 a share, Gillette would have to pay Revlon the difference between the buyout price and $29.75 for each of its 9.23 million Gillette shares that Gillette repurchased from Revlon last year. That provision concerned Gillette's directors, who said in their statement that the agreement would make it more expensive for another bidder to acquire Gillette before November 24th. The directors also said the agreement could be a reason for Revlon wanting to put Gillette in play or make it a potential takeover target. The board expressed concern that the Revlon action was in violation of the terms of the 1986 Gillette-Revlon agreement, and noted that unusual activity in Gillette stock during the 2 weeks preceded the delivery of the letter. As a result, the board authorized its counsel to consider, in consultation with management, Commons litigation against Revlon. With respect to these matters, the director said, Revlon said in a statement that it was willing to waive the disputed provision of the standstill agreement if Gillette gave Revlon consent to proceed with the $40.50 a share bid, if Gillette pledged not to give other potential bidders any improper advantages over Revlon. I think the question we really have to ask ourselves is Ron Perlman really interested in Gillette? I think the answer is no, said Andrew Shore of Shearsman Lehman Brothers. I think Perlman is trying to put his company into play because he stands to make a fortune from it. Yeah, so there you have it. That's a history of Revlon and what has brought them to the state that they are in today, which is not a very good one. They got obsessed with money and tried to buy the whole world, and it bit them in the behind. All right, so I hope you enjoyed this podcast. I know it's long and it's drug out, but I just found it to be so interesting. I had no idea that Revlon had acquired so many companies. I had no idea Revlon owns so much. I had no idea. And so that just, it was like a real eye opener to me. So it makes me wonder, if Revlon does file for bankruptcy and they end up going under, does that mean all those other companies are going under as well that Revlon owns? It's a very good question. One I'm sure we will find out in the near future. And sadly, as our economy just keeps getting worse and worse, it won't surprise me if Revlon and all of the companies it owns ends up going under. That would not surprise me at all. Alright, so that's going to do it for my video. Thank you so much for watching, and if you've stayed with me to the end, thank you so much. It means so much to me. Please like and subscribe, and this is Miss Letty Doll saying ta-ta for now.